Fair enough.
There you
All
go.
right, so we are recording. This is September 17th, and this is a safety committee meeting. Thanks for joining. In attendance, we have Mayor Hughes, Councilperson Bruger, Councilperson McNamara, and a representative from our village attorney's office, Jesse Shamp. And while on Monday, I had intended to use this meeting to discuss some road safety issues, we have in the interim received word back from Columbus Fire. And so I believe that is a much more pressing matter. So we are going to talk about that. I'm going to give a quick screen share so that we can look at the email that we got from Jesse earlier today, or yesterday, pardon me. And basically for reference, for those who haven't been involved in all of this all along, it's been, and Tiffany, you might need to keep me honest, this has been an ongoing thing since late last year that City of Columbus stopped using our fire EMS group on their run card as I believe it was end of last year. And subsequently after that, they looked to enter negotiations for us to pay for their fire service. Tiffany, is my timeline right? I saw you unmute.
About
was it
July
end of
or
last year?
Yes,
July
it was about
of
July or August when this
of
started.
last year. Yeah.
Yes.
Right, because if we were no longer providing them EMS service, they felt they had a right for payment for fire service. We did begin some sort of formal negotiation earlier this year, and Columbus showed up to a first meeting with numbers that frankly would have bankrupted the village. We countered with a substantially lower number. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 and, oh, there it is in the email, 151.2. And we now have their counter back. And this is from Jesse. And I'll just read the email into what amounts to a record. And that is that he says, Mayor Hughes, Brian, and all, I just received from George Speaks at the City of Columbus Fire, and he countered with $175 a year for fire services. Our offer in the attached letter was $151.2, while his initial offer was $252. So we got him to meet us a little more than halfway. He had two other requests. First, he asked that this amount be paid for the year 2020, with perhaps half due upon signing and half due at the end of the year. And second, he wanted to include language that our price would go up the same amount that the city fire's budget goes up. For example, if the Columbus Fire Department budget went up by 2.5%, then our price would go up by 2.5%. But I believe his first point may be negotiable if we wish to push back. Let us know. So that's where we are now. In the column of additional data, while I have this up, we did get a projection from Kim Pulley using that number, and she gave us projections out to 2024. She wasn't prepared to do 2025 yet, and I might be a little too bottom line on this, but looking at fund balance at the end of the year, they are certainly declining over the 4 years of the projection, or 3 years of projection. What is it? Yeah, 4 years of projection, and ending at 223 and some change at the end of 2024. So that is sort of where we are at. So I think the things, now we gotta go back and do it all again for Tony. Hey Tony, thanks for joining. Basically, I'll give you the quick summation of what we've covered thus far, and that is that Columbus Fire came back with their number, which is $175,000 a year for services, with two added requests in that, and one is that they're asking us to pay that for 2020.
Yeah, I've read this.
Oh, you saw that email? Okay. Okay. Then, I think we have the three bullet points to talk through, right? Is 175 a number we can accept? Should we try to counter that number again? The second one, the bullet point about paying for 2020, and then the third one, the fixing price increase to their budgetary increase. So, looking at the projection that Kim Pulley provided, and I don't know if everybody got that or not. Kim Pulley sent the projection out just maybe not an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, and it did not go out to everybody. I'll forward this out to everybody. But basically, at the end of, with this accounted for in the projection, our year-end balance, funds balances is declining, but we are not absolutely broke yet, is, I guess, the closest I could say. Let me get this out to, so with that, I don't know that we could squeeze any more juice out of that berry, but I would not be opposed to trying if that is other people's appetite.
I don't know what Jesse feels about it. What?
So my impression from George, and it was a very quick conversation, was that I think he wants to work with us. He doesn't want to have an ongoing debate back and forth to where it would look like the village got everything they wanted. But I mean, the long and the skinny was, what can the village afford to pay here? Give me the bottom line. How does 175 sound to take back to them for their discussion points? And I said I would do that.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So if it's really about affordability, I really think that 151 was our affordable number, right? And I can tell you, unless anybody disagrees, I really think that paying 2020, no matter what the number is, isn't affordable, right?
I will agree.
The only way we would be paying them anything in 2020 is if we, were in contract by November and we could pay them in 2020 what we had budgeted to pay our existing EMS. That's the only money we got, in my opinion, for 2020. I mean, other people can chime in and speak otherwise. I mean, maybe at a highest dollar, and I'm just throwing something into a calculator here. I mean, at a highest dollar, we could look at that 151.2, divide that by 12, right? And we could say, if we were in contract with them and have been able to completely shut down our EMS by then, right, we could do 1/12 of that for November and December. But Tiffany, please don't let me speak for everyone here. Let somebody else make,
It's more of just a negotiating about, telling them that we can live with 175 next year and work out something for this year, like half of that, and make payments or something. Because
I would rather tell them we don't have it for this year, right? All of the money that we have budgeted for fire EMS, we've spent 9/12 of it already, right?
Yeah, we made our budget, we spent things, we were maintaining our own EMS.
Well, I understand that, but if I was coming from their side of it, I wouldn't look at it like that. I mean,
Kim definitely, threw out the notion that if we're not running an EMS and they absolutely demand something, they're welcome to our EMS vehicle. I don't think that's.
Well, I think that's one of the things we need to start talking about doing is selling that thing, or giving it to them or whatever, trying to liquidate the assets and see what we can come up with and work out a payment plan or something. For this year.
I'd rather start with we'll start paying as soon as we're under contract. Yeah,
It
I am not
wasn't
so
an
far
expected
removed.
expense.
Right. I am not so far removed from the day that the village pulled out its pockets and, moths flew out and told its people we're broke. We are, while we're not in that position entirely, we're not that far removed from it. And I don't think it's unreasonable to tell the city of Columbus, I can't pay you what I don't have.
Right.
Right. So I
Right.
talked to Kim today. And here's kind of where, if I'm just going to say this, and I realize that I'm on a live recording, but if we had to pay the 175, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Okay. So there is that. Number two, if we had to pay 175 this year, it could be the end of the world. And she did not say that, but it's pretty, in a perfect world, we would sign them over our truck, anything that's not bolted down, and that would be their payment for this year. In the event that we, needed to give them some sort of cash value, a $20,000 to $40,000 would be the max, would be an ideal max. Now, she of course then said, if it needed to be a higher amount, they don't want our EMS, we need to sell the EMS truck immediately. So we would have that money to be able to give to them. So regardless, there is a cash value there in the automobile, and it's just a matter of how quickly we want to get this done. I had talked to Jean today about, I don't think any of us think that this is now going to go a different direction. At what point do we basically call it quits? And this is going to be the most awful thing I'm going to say, and I know it's on a recording, but at what point do we just close the EMS? Columbus is currently doing our runs. We really don't have much of a buying power at this point. I don't want anybody unemployed more than anybody else. But every dollar that I know that council allows and I allow to continue to go out of here paying people for a dream is not being fiscally responsible. So I think
we've been more than fair in keeping it open or operating this long.
Right. So I'm going to go with, if the truck needs to go, or in a perfect world, we give them the truck, anything that's not bolted down, that's your 2020 payment. There is no cash value. So I am agreeing with you, Brian. There is no 2020 value. There is no cash value in 2020.
No, that's what I think. So the question is, there's two passes in there in my thinking, right? Mm-hmm. The first one is saying there is no cash, right? We will begin to pay you monthly prorated as soon as we are effectively in contract, right? That would be, in my opinion, a perfect world. That's saying, okay, if come November 1, we are out of the EMS business and you're now our fire EMS people, right? We'll start paying you a monthly rate based on whatever our final dollar is. That, I think, is our most fiscally responsible for us position, because then we can liquidate our own assets and put that into the coffers to pay next year, right? That's, if at this moment, if I could extract all the value I can, that's what I would want, right? If, and I'd float that, give that a trial balloon, and if that gets absolutely shot down, then the next is, look, there's still no cash for this year. But if you feel like you want to liquidate our EMS assets, that will certainly save us the trouble, and you could have that. But that's it. Like, that's the last two passes. I don't think it's worth going any further. And go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry. This was something that I thought about when Tony said we've been, more than fair with our, EMS, and Mayor Hughes talking about, we're wasting money keeping a dream alive, which is something I sadly have to agree with. I know personally one of the EMS people with the Minerva Park EMS, and I know that she also works for the same agency I do, Ohio Health. So should we disband our EMS, I know at least one, income is not going to be lost. Do we know if there are people who are full-time exclusively with Minerva Park as their sole source of income? Because, it's about people too.
Yeah, I don't believe that there are, right? Because
there might be one or two, maybe.
Yeah, I guess Tiffany has a hand up.
I believe there's one that could potentially be pretty affected, but they're all going to be affected. This is still a side income for everybody, whether
understandable.
that I see what you're saying though. I actually asked the question for another financial purpose. I had asked Kim and Leah, unemployment claims. Is that something, you know, do we want to look at that as being another financial hit to us? And I'm not going to say that there's not going to be any. We do expect the potential of one, maybe two. So I would say that would really be, I mean, again, they're all going to be affected just like any of us if we lost a side income, but I don't believe other than one, this would be a full-time salary. And I'm going to say this, and this is also going to sound horrible. I know, again, we were all hoping for a different outcome, but I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody either.
Understandable. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we're not forgetting the human element in these discussions.
Absolutely not. Again, I've actually asked that question already within the last 24 hours because I am concerned about it. Because
I mean, it's unlikely we're going to keep the Minerva Park EMS. I think we all acknowledge that. The one thing I also noticed was this downward trend in our funding at 175. If we can't get them down to the low to mid 150s. Is there any way that we know or anything that we think that trend of decreasing revenue or income stabilizes around a lower baseline, or does it just continue to decline forever? Because option one we can deal with, option two we cannot.
I mean, I don't actually think that decline is entirely based on this number, right? Because this is only like a $50,000 increase in our budget, right? So I think there are other systemic things going on in there that are causing that.
Like a new building, like a lake repair. That's yes. There's additional things in there that are.
So it's my fault, is what I'm hearing.
No, it's the decades and decades long neglect of the lakes that's who's the fault. And yeah, so
all right, those are my pieces. I just wanted to, I've got to go get the wife, but I just wanted to run those two thoughts past everybody. I'm glad we're making some progress at least.
And since we have a lawyer here, if Minerva Park EMS is dissolved because of this, which it sounds like we're definitely doing, would the village still be on the hook for unemployment, or would it be like, well, that business just went under, it's not like you lost your job, the business? You understand the question I'm asking?
I do, and I'm not entirely sure. My limited experience with something like that would lead me to believe we would be on the hook, at least for some period of time, for the unemployment, just because it was our decision to do it.
Yeah, it seems like
okay, that makes sense. And not that I'm trying to, hurt people. Just wanted to know.
Well, that's our job, is to make sure that we, dot our I's and cross our T's and look at every different avenue. So I agree.
Okay, so I think that on the bullet point 1, we came to, or I guess bullet point 2 really, right? Or negotiating point 2, the amount to be paid for 2020. We discussed, two options. One being there's no cash value. Once we're in contract, we will pay a prorated amount for the months of service that we are in contract for. And option 2 is feel free to liquidate our fire department for whatever you can get out of it. Is there anybody who thinks that we should start straight at option 2, or what?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jesse, with the tone you talk to them, is there anything that you would tell us that you think they would be more willing to do? I mean, is that something, thinking that the EMS truck is that something you think that they're just going to be like, that's a headache, don't even bother? What would you recommend in this position? I know you can't tell us what Columbus is going to say, but what would you recommend?
Sure. The first thing I'd like to know is, I don't have any idea of what the status of our vehicle is. Is it new? Is it old? So I'd love to know like a street value of that.
It's about 10 years old. It's going to be paid off this year. Brian, correct me if I'm
10
wrong.
years
However
old.
many
No,
years
it's not 10 years old. It's
fairly new.
it is
4 years, maybe?
I was going to guess 5. When I was on council before, they had just bought it. So if that was 2016, so I think it would have been purchased 2015.
Okay.
So that
So
would make it 5 years old.
Kim seems to think it may have a $50,000, $60,000 value. Again, none of us are EMS professionals or anything. It was purchased for $200,000. So let's go with that, $200,000. And I'm going to say something horrible. We only operate at 20 to 25% of the time in the village. Again, this is
Low miles.
it
Everybody
can't
goes
have,
on Sunday to church.
yeah.
Well
So in comparison to what a Columbus 5-year-old vehicle is compared to what our 5-year-old vehicle, I would think there would be a very big difference.
Sure.
I think they use a different standard rig in Columbus. I don't think that they would incorporate it into their fleet, because if I recall from when we shopped for that, we couldn't buy the same size that they used because it wouldn't fit in our garage. So we had to buy a different configuration to fit in our bay.
I mean, we can't think about just selling the thing, or however that goes about.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Maybe that'd be the next
they
step.
could. Yeah, I would just think that Columbus has better resources to
I don't think
get a better value out of it than we do.
I doubt that they want it. I'll be honest.
Well, I'm sure they don't want it. I'm sure they don't want it for their fleet, but I would just imagine that they have a better access to a secondary market, right? They are disposing of ambulances way more frequently than we are, right? And so they probably have a better path. Right.
We would
Right,
probably just put it on the public auction site for police and all that kind of stuff. I'm again assuming.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what I
probably
hear.
what we would have to do. Now, and maybe that's all they do too, and so they'd say, which I guess would be a third option. If they're like, we don't want the hassle, we can say, well, we would put it all on out for public auction, and whatever we get, it's
We'll give
yours.
you-
minus our hassle fee, right? Like,
Yep.
we'd have to, recoup some administrative cost for listing it and all of that stuff. But
I
You
mean,
can turn it into an awesome mobile little camper home thing.
oh yeah,
Did you remember this
Use
has
it for a
probably
maintenance
$40,000, $50,000 value, Mark?
You know how expensive campers are?
True. I'm not a camper. Clearly you guys probably knew that.
I mean, my gut would be if we're okay with the percentage increase, which I know we haven't discussed yet, I think I would call them back and say, how about we agree to that increase? We'll pay $165,000 a year, and we want to prorate our months through at the end of 2020 or whenever we sign up, whenever we ink a deal, and we'll give you the ambulance or we'll sell it. Give us your thoughts on that.
Sounds good.
and I think that is the likely outcome. So if you're saying it's better just to skip the step of offering them nothing, if it gets us the a $10,000 cut in the overall price, I think that's reasonable.
So Jesse, and this is just a random question, I know we're headed there next.
Sure.
Is there any incentive, and I know that they're not going to like it, but again, as far as that goes, and I just heard is there any interest in putting some sort of cap in the increase? I mean, again, I'm of the thought that, with everything going on with Columbus Police and, potentially Columbus Fire and all of that kind of stuff, I'm not really sure that, what did they increase from 2018 to 2019? What about 2019 to 2020? Is 2.5% something realistic? Or, 3 years ago, did they increase 25%?
Right. He very briefly, he threw out, 2.5%, and he told me to look at their agreement with Bexley that has just very broad language that says all parties will strive to maintain the current status quo, but in the event it goes up. So I would love to know what that number is. That's a great question. how often do they increase? And he threw out the 2.5% as if that were the highest it would jump in a year.
Right. So I think that would be my only question. I would be fine with the 2.5%. If it's 3%, is it 1% or whatever? But I guess that would be my only concern is what if in 2022 it increases 37% and it's some crazy year? I mean,
Sure.
I don't know. Is that even
Sure.
possible?
Do
That
they-
would be fine. If he very well could be comfortable if we'll cap it at a 2.5% increase. That I'd feel comfortable saying that to him.
Exactly. And I say that, I don't know if council does, but I think that would be my only concern is, what if there was some what is normal? Is 2.5 normal?
And
Right.
and maybe find out how they go about determining what the increase is on a, is there a formula that they have, or how do
Right.
they determine that?
Let's say it's a year they go replace all of their vehicles and it increases something crazy.
Right.
Well, I think to that point, we should make sure that budgetary increase is operating budget, not capital budget,
There you go.
right? Because that's the difference, right? Their operating budget is basically manpower and consumables, right? And their capital budget is buildings and trucks, right? Benchmarking to the operating budget is reasonable, but to Tiffany's point, if they decide next year they want to build 10 more firehouses, we shouldn't be eating.
Should be an imposed tax levy.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah. Yes, so all that sounds pretty reasonable. Jesse,
Yeah,
can you? Oh, go ahead, Tiffany. No, go ahead, Tiffany.
All my question is, do you have an idea of timeline that they're interested in getting this done? Obviously sooner the better, but what would your anticipated if they were willing to go 165, cap it at 2.5% for an operating budget, and then whatever, I still don't even know what we're asking for on the other, but I think just the end of the year and maybe the EMS type thing, which is again, fine with me. Time frame for us to sit tight, and what do you think it's going to be to get a hold of him, try to figure something out?
I mean, I think he wants it done. He sort of said that he left it sitting on the back burner and now it's time to wrap it up because
Okay.
I think he knows that both parties just need to. So I guess I don't know how quickly the wheels of Columbus work.
Okay.
I'm sure it's maybe a little slower than what we would do, but I don't think I think it'd be done. I think it could be done by the beginning of November.
Okay.
So, well, whatever they come back with, once it's an agreement, we still we'll need legislation for this.
Right.
And that's 3 readings. So
Right.
provided we don't skip any readings, and this is one that I'm super not interested in skipping readings on. I wouldn't hate passing it as an emergency to get it effective lickety split.
Sure.
But I would hate skipping readings on this. So whenever we get it back, if it's everything we've asked for at this point, then I mean we're looking at least 6 weeks for us to
Right.
get readings.
That's right. I mean, maybe I was a little rosy-eyed there. I mean, December 1st seems absolutely doable.
Yeah. Well, and even you could send him a letter tomorrow, and he could come back sold. And,
Right.
I mean, and then November 1 isn't impossible, right?
Right.
That's.
Well, and I think a lot of us would be interested if we thought this was really, if it was a great deal and we just wanted to get it done, like Brian saying. I mean, we could always create additional meetings to get readings in, that type
Right.
of thing, if we wanted to not go the 30 days as well. So if we didn't want to pass it as an emergency.
We should also just prepare ourselves for the backlash that change of this type and magnitude will create backlash.
It's going to. It's unfortunately out of our hands, but unfortunately it's not out of our,
Yeah, no, there will be torches and pitchforks. We just need to be prepared for it, and
I don't know
it will be what it'll be.
what we could have done differently. That's all I will say.
it's
I mean-
been a long time coming.
Yep. And anybody who watches would know that, but there are lots of people who don't watch. And then those are the people who, when they finally hear about it, they'll say, but I remember when I was a little boy growing up in Minerva Park, and it was the Women's Auxiliary Fire Department. It was an all women's fire department.
The squaws.
Yeah. Exactly.
What it was called.
And how dare you disband our squaw squad? And so we just need to be emotionally prepared.
Maybe we should start to talk about a farewell. I would
that wouldn't be bad.
celebration, but something.
Something to honor the. I don't even know when it was started, but however many years
the history of the EMS. It's coming to an end. It's fun while it
exactly.
Don't worry, I'm just going to refer everybody to Brian. No, I'm kidding, Brian.
He's the chair of the safety committee.
I'll just tell everybody I'm new. I have no idea. I'm new.
We fortified the defenses the last time the pitchforks came out for him. So we'll be fine.
Brian's used to it. We'll just tell him to stand in line to go. No, it is. It's very sad, I think, for the residents that have been in the village for a really long time. It is going to be devastating to a lot of them. I actually went back through and read some of the survey comments and not long ago, and there were actual comments on there that said that the number one reason that they moved into the village was because we had our own EMS. Regardless that it only operates at 20-some%, whether they knew that or didn't know that, I mean, that was a determining factor for them to buying in our village. So there's going to be people that are extremely upset. I agree with you.
If you look back over the last 7-8 years, most houses in their listing had a picture of our EMS.
Yes, I agree with you.
Right? When people would sell their houses, it was on the
website. It was easy to get.
A picture of the lake and a picture of the EMS. Right. And they just lift the one off the website. And so, of course, it's been a selling point. It's feels like safety. Now, truth of the matter is it's going to be the same ambulance coming from Maple Canyon as it always has been 80% of the time. But
that's tough my defense or reply is that, in reality, we only had a part-time EMS service at best.
And I think that that's something we'll have to hit when we do the newsletter article. When we get to that point is, it's going to really have to be well thought out, well written, straight and to the point, and move on.
Yep. Well, this didn't go nearly as badly as I thought.
No, I think, again, I would agree with you. I think it's straight and to the point. I mean, there's really not a lot we can do.
Yeah, we're past hoping that it'll get better. It's not going to get better. And at least now we don't have to build a EMS bay.
Well, that would be,
I don't know, the silver lining,
another,
a little bit less square.
Or, still the same square footage, but better use of it, right? Or more public.
And of course, those plans were meaningless anyway. But that was going to be a standalone building for the EMS.
So the worst case scenario, I'm just kind of so that I know as I'm talking to him which way to go here. Our worst case scenario is the 175 that he quoted, plus the increase in the operating budget with no cap. And he is going to say the full cost of this year, but I'm going to tell him that's just absolutely off the table. We can't do it.
Right.
You can feel free to tell them that would 100% bankrupt the village.
So if they came back with, Brian, this is just a question for you. If they came back, I don't know if I'm still, okay. If they came back with, are you guys willing to do half or anything like that? Do you have interest in Jesse trying to move forward with getting them to write that up, at least to present? I don't know financially what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need more information from Kim to know if and what that number could be, because I don't think it's there. From my
I don't either.
Financials,
I think the only way that it's going to be there is if we sell the EMS and we put that, November, December that we're not spending together, and that will be close to, and that's the only reason I'm saying that. If we give Jesse a little bit of a...
But the November, December that we're not spending, we're paying to Columbus.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's not that we're not spending it. We're just...
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, my theory was, because we wouldn't be paying the 175, we would be paying the whatever we got from half. So $80 whatever $1,000, we would be getting that from,
Right.
we wouldn't be starting the contract in November or December. My view is we would start the contract January 1st of 2021 with them.
Okay.
You see what, so I think that's where that's where I'm a little different on
Oh,
that.
see, okay. Yeah, we probably need to get Jesse clear on that. Hopefully he can
And that's,
join
no,
back in,
and
because
that's
I was
you. I mean, again, he actually, I think he.
I was
felt-
thinking we would start it as soon. He did. He looked like he had an internet glitch because he was in mid-sentence and glitched out and then died out.
But I actually
So
do
yeah,
like
we probably.
I do like your way.
Mine randomly
better.
cut out too and then just reconnected.
Yeah. I misunderstood your part to that. So I actually do like that better. We would start paying in November, December. We're not paying anything for this. I do like your way better.
That's, I think the sooner we can get on their books, the better for everybody, I think. And, and it's, to give me a bill for a service I had no contract for just seems like
There's something wrong about that.
Yeah, right. Like I budgeted this year and you weren't in it. I can't spend the money twice, no matter how hard I try. I've never been able to spend the same dollar twice.
Well, and it was, I had a conversation with somebody earlier today that, this doesn't really matter because Columbus is going to do what Columbus is going to do, but we didn't ask to be taken off the run cards. That was their choice.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that they could have.
I'm back.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Yay. Back.
Jesse, I was actually misunderstanding a little bit of what Brian was saying. So I actually do like what Brian was saying, paying them for like November, December, and then on to next year. I missed that. That's what I was not understanding. So I like this idea.
On with them as soon as we can.
Perfect. So my quick math on that was, if we say their worst case is the 175, I'll divide that by 12, tell them we'll pay them whatever that prorated amount is, but obviously try to get them down.
I'd aim for, you had said 165 before. I am cheap as the day is long, and I feel like 160 is a better
Sure.
between if we started at 151 I won and they came in at 175, I'd start at 160, right?
Sure.
Every nickel we can squeeze out is a nickel we can spend on.
Do you learn that from Pawn Stars or something?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm also, unfortunately, this isn't a situation we can walk away from, but,
Right.
I that's my preference is, if I'm negotiating on something that I know I can live without, I'm cheap. But that's just me.
Okay. And then I'll mention that we'd be willing to title over the ambulance. If not, give it to them to sell it, or we'll sell it. And
yeah. I mean, if it's
proceeds
if
over.
it's a negotiating, I would start with, no cash. And then the next proffer is, you're welcome to have all of our EMS related assets and liquidate them as you see fit. And if that still doesn't sell, then we'll liquidate them and give them whatever the proceeds are, but there's no guarantee in what that dollar amount is.
Yep.
And it's strictly because we don't have it. I mean, we've literally spent our EMS money for this year, and
Right.
they can see our budget. I mean, there's just not really not really a needed hidden factor.
Both our budget and our revenue, all of our monies is public record, right? They can see
Exactly.
we ain't rolling in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
very good.
That's helpful. Yep. Can do.
Then I think we have had all of the discussion we need to have. Since I let Chief Delp off the hook, we can leave the police discussion for another time. When we meet at the next regular scheduled Monday meeting, which I guess is Monday, right? No, the 28th, is that our next regular meeting?
No, we turned the 21st. And Jesse, this isn't for you, so if you do want to jump off, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just really fast for you guys. There is going to be a piece of legislation that has to do with the budget that is, we normally get the document in July or August. We actually just received it. And it has to be passed as an emergency, waive all of the readings, and has to be to the auditor no later than October 1st. So I do not want to do 2 readings and push that to September 28th.
No, that's fine.
So there are some additional things that you guys are going to see that are going to be boom, boom, boom. And we have the documentation again to prove that we literally just got this document. So with all the figures on it. So
That's the
21st
tax
has
stuff.
been changed.
Monday was gonna be a regular meeting anyway.
Correct. To do other
Alright.
things as well. I don't know if that's going to change anybody's opinion. And I know we all want to get off here because Brian and I have to be back in an hour. And I have to go sign some checks at the community
By an
building.
hour,
But
do you
the only
mean?
other
Oh,
thing
yeah, it
is,
only 6, okay.
with this EMS change, I don't know if anybody has any alternate thoughts to just to think about and shoot me an email. This Atlas Butler thing. I don't know if anybody, I mean, the building remains the building, the space remains the space. It may not be occupied, so maybe we leave it off. Does that change anybody's thoughts? You don't have to
Doesn't
answer it, but I'm
change
just reminding you
anything
guys
to me, because I anticipate using that space
for meetings and things like
for
that.
whatever,
Yeah.
that space is gonna
Okay.
be.
It was just a thought that I wanted to make sure that I don't get to Monday night and have some, if somebody needs additional pricing or something, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to get it before Monday.
No, I'm good there.
Okay.
All right, I am going to call this meeting to an end. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
See you in
Yeah.
September.
See you later
Meeting
tonight.
is adjourned.
Bye.